12 months ago, Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic played in one of the most memorable men's finals in Wimbledon history. Alcaraz dethroning Djokovic, who at that point had won 4 consecutive titles at SW19. Now here we are with another Alcaraz-Djokovic Wimbledon championship, but this time, Novak Djokovic plays the role of the underdog, fresh off his knee meniscus surgery and aiming to stop the 21-year-old from winning his second consecutive slam and 4th overall. We've only had a handful of Wimbledon men's final back-to-back rematches in history. In 1981, John McEnroe avenged his 1980 loss to Bjorn Borg, and in 2008, Rafael Nadal produced that classic win over Roger Federer after losing to the Swiss maestro in 2006 and in 2007. Will Djokovic continue the trend and get his lick back? Or will Alcaraz once again forge a new path and defend his first slam? Hey, my name is Christian Bassnight and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you have not yet already, make sure you all subscribe and click the notification bell so you all are notified whenever I post new content like my Wimbledon Finals post-match reaction / recap. Now, getting into the head-to-head, Djokovic leads it 3-2, and he has won their last 2 meetings. Their last meeting was at the ATP semifinals, which he won handily 6-3, 6-2, and then their meeting before that was at the Cincinnati finals, which is probably the best 3-set match of all time. Novak won that one 5-7, 7-6, 7-6. The last Alcaraz win was that Wimbledon final last year, which the Spaniard took by a score of 1-6, 7-6, 6-1, 3-6, 6-4. Djokovic is coming into this one the fresher of the two, thanks to that walkover in the quarterfinals from Alex de Minaur. Novak has had a much easier road to the finals. Now, Norway fans, do not come for me. It's a fact. The Serb opened against qualifier Vic Kopriva and got his easiest win of the tournament, scoreline-wise, taking it 6-1, 6-2, 6-2. Norway was tested and pushed to 4 sets by his next 2 opponents, Jakob Fernley and Alexei Popyrin. He did not drop a set for the remainder of the tournament, and as he beat Holger Rune decisively in the 4th round, 3-4-2, cruising past the error-prone Dane. He then got the walkover, of course, from de Minaur in the quarters, and then bested 25th seed Lorenzo Musetti in straight sets. That Musetti match was very impressive because Lorenzo hit the same number of winners, I believe, as Novak at 34, and then he actually hit fewer unforced errors compared to the Serb, but he still lost in straight sets. Novak just locked in when he needed to and was the more solid of the pair. There have been conversations about Novak having an easy draw, and it's for sure, to me, reminiscent of Novak's 2016 US Open draw or path to that final, although that was a little bit more crazy, as I believe he had more like 2-3 walkovers / retirements in that tournament. Now, Djokovic, compared to Alcaraz, definitely has a easier draw on paper for sure, but I still think that some of that ease is due to Djokovic just being way too clutch in the tight moments, especially in that semifinal against Musetti. It's been overall solid playing from Djokovic, definitely not his most awe-inspiring, but he hasn't necessarily needed that in order to progress through the tournament. I have been impressed by Novak's efficient serving throughout the tournament, and I think a lot of that is due to his willingness to, well, first of all, his spot serving and his excellent placement on his serve, but he follows that in with tremendous volleys and net play. He's been more willing to use the serve and volley play. I also think that's a way for him to preserve his knee, of course, coming off that knee meniscus surgery. Djokovic, he ventured up to the net a whopping 56 times in that semifinal against Musetti, and he won 77% of those points, so clearly he's had a lot of success up at the net. Djokovic, of course, has continued his trademark excellent returning. Against Musetti, he won 59% of points whenever he saw a second serve look. Carlos, meanwhile, has had to grind throughout this tournament, namely in the 3rd round against Francis Tiafoe, where he recovered from a 2-1 deficit to steamroll to victory in the 5th. Alcaraz also faced severe pressure in his round of 16 and quarterfinal matches against Ugo Humbert and Tommy Paul, but somehow came through those matches in 4 sets. Then in the semifinal, Carlitos got past 5th seed Daniil Medvedev in another relatively shaky 4-set victory. This has definitely been a very hot and cold tournament from the Spaniard. There are moments where that serve and forehand in particular desert him, and then he's able to find his range when he needs it and kind of sails to victory low-key in the end. He's also had some real baffling shot selection moments and sometimes goes for the riskier, lower percentage shots to try to wow the crowd, it seems like, but when he tames himself, he definitely seems to have better results. Looking back to that final between Novak and Carlos 12 months ago, it was full of wild momentum shifts. Alcaraz had a shaky and nervous start, but he kind of controlled it. But still, Novak was a point away from going up 2-0. But he definitely wavered a little bit, and that gave Carlos those slight key openings, which the Spaniard took full advantage of. The match was definitely more decided by Alcaraz. Carlitos dictated the proceedings through a flurry of winners or kind of those flurry of errors. Overall, though, he was the more bold player, which paid off, and is why he lifted the trophy at the end of the day. Djokovic did not play his best, especially in some of those sets. I think he tanked a little bit in that third set to try to conserve energy, and he played better for sure in the fourth and fifth sets. But I think that some of his poorer play perhaps could have been due to Alcaraz just preventing him from playing quote, his best tennis due to his immense power from the ground. Nole also did not serve well for his standards and did not win as many points behind that first serve, 62% to be exact. So I think that that's an area to where Djokovic really needs to make sure he improves upon in this final. Alcaraz's win was very impressive because Novak, as I mentioned in the introduction, at that point had won 4 straight Wimbledon titles and was far more experienced. But Carlitos grinded his way to the W and proved that he is definitely going to be amongst one of the greats when it's all said and done. You'd think that Carlitos would have the bigger edge in this match, as he has the experience now of winning Wimbledon and has been in the clear better form this season. And Djokovic, of course, still is recovering technically from that meniscus surgery. Djokovic has not been that battle tested throughout this tournament, which can both help and hurt him. Musetti was solid, of course, but he lacked the confidence of that big title-winning player to play those big points better. I think that Lorenzo, even though he did lose in straight sets, was definitely the toughest opponent that Novak has faced thus far in this tournament, and it was great for Novak that he was still able to prevail that one in that match in straight sets. I think that Djokovic playing literally like 5-6 hours less than Alcaraz could help him for sure in being the fresher of the two physically if this one does go deep. Alcaraz, meanwhile, might have the advantage in playing and having to navigate the challenge of facing fellow slam champs at this big stage. Carlos has shown clear vulnerability throughout the tournament, and he has shown lapses of lack of concentration, and for sure he will have his off moments in this final, but I overall expect a much more polished performance from the Spaniard for sure. Looking at what's at stake for both of these men, I think there's more on the line for Djokovic. There's that record extending 25 slams, which would surpass Margaret Court, even though I don't know why Court is still in the discussion, but for the sake of issues and giggles, we'll include Court here. And then there's that record equaling 8 Wimbledon titles, which would tie Roger Federer. The 37-year-old would also become the oldest Wimbledon men's champion in history. Novak, we know he has had a dismal season for his standards, and before Wimbledon, he had never reached a final even. And still, to this day, he has not beaten a top 10 player in 2024. He is definitely, I think, will be hungry to prove himself and to turn the season around, especially against Alcaraz, who is touted as probably top 2 best player of the year, and of course beat him at this very stage last year. Looking at what's on the line for Alcaraz, there's his perfect 3-0 slam record and slam finals, and then Carlitos would become the 6th man to win the Channel Slam in the same year in the Open era, and he's also, of course, he would defend a slam for the very first time if he were to triumph on Sunday. Like with the ladies final, I kind of flip-flop back and forth with this prediction, and I low-key still am doing it now. I initially had Alcaraz winning this one due to that edge of him being more battle-tested and overall showing greater form throughout the 2024 season, and then I leaned more towards Novak because just him likely being the hungrier of the two for this win. I feel like there definitely is more room for improvement for Alcaraz compared to Novak, whereas I feel like Novak, I think he's kind of already hit his peak at the moment in these last few rounds. I don't think there's that much better that we can see from the Joker. Still, I've learned that you just cannot doubt the GOAT, and I think that that's the main reason why I will be having Novak Djokovic win his 8th Wimbledon title in 4 sets against Alcaraz. I think that Novak winning this one in 4 sets or less will be key for sure, because I think if this one does go the decider or go the distance, of course, Alcaraz would be the more of a favorite. We all know that he performs better in the 5 setters. He has that incredible 12-1 5-set record, and I feel like it would be 13-1 to be honest if this one does go the distance. There's also that question too of the knee holding up if this one goes deep. Novak, he's been very efficient throughout the tournament as far as, you know, not playing too many grueling rallies and exchanges, and I think that obviously could change tomorrow. I think that if Carlitos finds himself down a deficit, he needs to just try his best, obviously, to push this one to a decider, because there's just the question of just whether Novak will physically be able to withstand it. Novak also doesn't have that much experience recently as of late playing these tough, grueling matches, 5-set matches, I believe. Overall, I chose Novak because it was just literally a feeling that came over me as I was preparing for this video. And I just feel like Novak he will be hungry definitely to have his rise from the ashes moment and have that moment of, oh, I came back from having knee surgery and won the title, especially getting revenge over Carlos, who beat me last year. I think for sure he's going to be very, very hungry. Perhaps this might be the most hungry he's come out for a slam final. Last year, I don't think he was as hungry. I think he was more nervous last year than anything because he was kind of more of a bigger favorite. But this time, I think he'll for sure be more of the clearer underdog. And I think that Djokovic thrives when people doubt him. So that's ultimately why I do have him lifting his 25th Grand Slam title come tomorrow, Sunday. That's it for this men's Wimbledon final preview, and let me know whether you agree with me having Djokovic win yet another Wimbledon crown, or if you believe that Carlitos will silence him yet again and lift his second Wimbledon major trophy. Feel free to drop your own predictions in the comments below. I'll make sure I reply to as many comments as I can. Also, once again, make sure you all subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post my Wimbledon men's final recap/reaction. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all tomorrow after the final here on Christian's Court.